how do we represent these values? Well, there's multiple ways to do this. One way is known as the set notation. So this setup right here is the set notation. The other way is known as interval notation, which is right here. And whichever one that you have, you can have either a closed or an open interval. Open means that these numbers right here, A and the B, these represent the endpoints of your interval. So the endpoints are basically the points on the number line that you are approaching. When it's an open interval, it means that you get very close to A and B, but you are not necessarily equal to A and B. And this is a bit more apparent when you look at the set notation. So you're saying that X is any value between A and B, but it's not going to be equal to A or B. Whereas the closed notation, notice that saying X is between A and B, but also can equal A and B. And so the difference in the interval notation is if it's closed, we use these square brackets. If it's open, we use the parentheses. And you can actually have a combination. You can have maybe one end is open and the other end is closed. That's also a possibility. Okay, when it comes to infinity, so this means that your interval just goes on and on and on, either towards negative or positive infinity. The infinity limits intervals will always have a open parentheses. So they're always open, hence parentheses, because you can't theoretically ever reach infinity. So it's always going to be open regardless of what side you're on and whether it's negative infinity or positive infinity. In set notation form, this is what it looks like. So this is saying X is any number bigger than A. So you could keep going in as large as you want, but you'll always be bigger than A. Hence, we're saying X is any number between A to infinity. This one is saying X is any number smaller than and equal to B, which means, okay, so we can equal B. That's why we have the closed bracket, the square bracket. But X can also be any number smaller than B. So we keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We can get closer and closer to negative infinity. So when solving inequalities, your answer won't just be a list of numbers. Rather, it would be a interval, and that interval can be expressed using set notation or interval notation. You'll see that the homeworks on Pearson always wants interval notation. So you would want to be familiarized with this setup. Whereas set notation, I would say when it comes to more like formal writing of mathematics and research, set notation is the much more common way to write out these intervals. Okay. So again, we see that there's a difference between whether you have parentheses or brackets. Brackets referring to those squared ones, parentheses referring to the curved ones. So again, parentheses indicate endpoints that are not included, whereas square brackets indicate endpoints that are included. And we always use parentheses for infinities. Now, express each interval in set builder notation, and then graph. So this is just to kind of give you an idea of what these intervals mean. So this is saying that my value, let's say X, is somewhere between 2 and 5. Those are my endpoints. So if I wrote this in set notation, it would look like this. So I'm between -2 and 5. Now the 2, notice it has that square bracket. So that means I could include the 2, the -2. 5 is not going to be included. So I won't have that equals 2. Now, when I'm referring to graphing, it's saying it's referring to a number line. So if we have a number line, That's going from negative infinity to infinity. I marked my endpoints, which are -2 and 5. When you include, you color in the circle. When it's not included, you put an open circle, so a non-colored circle, and then you just draw the line between them. This is what it would look like on the number line. All right. Next, we're between 1 and 3.5. Okay, so x is any number between 1 and 3.5. Both of them have the square bracket, so I'm going to include them, which means I'd have less than equal to, less than equal to. Okay, now let's draw the number line. So we're between 1 and 3.5. Both are included. And since I'm between, I combine them by drawing a line. Okay, finally, we have negative infinity to -1. Well, what does this mean? This means that when it comes to negative, you can't really express that as an endpoint. Rather, it's saying your values of x are between, are all smaller than -1. So x is any number smaller than -1. And since -1 has the parentheses, it's an open interval, so I won't put the equals to. Okay, how would this look like on the number line? Well, again, you don't really have an endpoint when it's infinity. So you just put the -1, and then it's not included, so it's an open circle, and then you can just draw an arrow going towards negative infinity.